Thori, a Ilfe, I guess, a creature of maybe a precursor to what we would call Jack Frost, perhaps. So one evening, a man sets out on the Mother's Eve to find a Yule log. It had been a very strange year that year. It was mild, no sign of snow. Of course, it had cooled down and the darkness was there, but the chill was not. And so he walked and he walked and he walked. He walked to try and find a felled log sufficiently large and dry enough to bring back home for the Yule log. But alas, as he walked, he found nothing. As he walked, the crunching of the leaves, still fresh on the ground, crunched under his feet. But there was none of the slight, delicate crunching of the snow. And in his heart of hearts, he longed for what should have been there. Eventually, after many hours and the daylight slipping from him, he decided it was time to walk into parts of the woods that were unknown to him. And he set off. Against his better judgment, he set off. And the woods became thicker and thicker. And he felt he was walking in circles, but he did not know. And then as the woods crowded in lower and lower, and the sounds around him became duller and duller, he felt a coldness, a mysterious coldness. But he plunged on, and he walked and came to the conclusion that he was lost. But he couldn't go back because he didn't know which way was back. The ground was solid, so he didn't know where his footsteps had been. So he walked on, exhausted, cold, and then the first hints of flurries. As he got thicker into the woods, mysteriously the snow started to happen. It started to fall strangely about him in this cold, dark place. The night was closing in, the snow was closing in, and the cold was biting deeply. He felt that if he couldn't find shelter soon, he would surely die. He fell to his knees and dragged himself through till he came to a ridge. And before him was a strange door. A door was built into the side of the ridge. He banged on the door with all his might and nothing. He hit that door with his fists until they bled and nothing. He called out into the night and nothing. He flopped down, exhausted, his body at the end of its tether, and leaned against the door. And the door quietly opened. The man, in amazement, pulled himself through, and there at the other end of this hall, what did he see? He saw a great fire ablaze with radiating heat. He couldn't believe his luck. He lay down in front of it, letting the heat penetrate every pore of his body, and eventually he fell asleep. He fell into a deep, deep sleep as that warmth wrapped him like a warm woolen blanket. After what seemed hours, he awoke, refreshed and warm, and he looked at the log. The log was still ablaze, but it had seemed like it had not burnt at all. The man looked. He couldn't believe it. And the next mysterious thing was, didn't even seem to be charred. He grabbed his axe and pushed it in and tried to move the log. And as he did, he slipped forward from the wetness that was still around his axe, and found to his surprise that the log didn't burn him. It radiated heat, but when he touched the log, it was cool to the touch. At this point, he realized it must be an enchanted log. And he thought to himself, if I could only get this log out and I could take it with me, it would warm our house forever. He grabbed his ropes and he ran them round the log, tied it tight. They did not burn, and he started to pull. And he dragged the log out of the house, through the door, out of the house. But to his despair, he realized he had nowhere to go. He did not know which way was home. He sat down again. He kicked the log. He heard something. No, that can't be. He kicked the log again and he hit you. He kicked the log again. Don't kick me, said the log. You can speak, said the man to the log. To his surprise, the log came back and said, Sir, I'm the imp Thori. I'm the bringer of frost. I was captured by a wicked sorcerer who imprisoned me within this log. He used his magic. He uses my magic to ensure that this log will burn forever and never run out of fuel. But if you promise to free me, I will show you your way home, for I know always. And you'll be able to keep this log and warm your family. The man thought about this for a second and said, How do I know you won't just run away if I free you? Thori said, Bind me. Bind me with your rope, and I will help you drag the log. So the man agreed to the terms, and Thori explained to free him the man needed to pile enough snow on the log until it snuffed out the flames, at which point he could grab Thori and bind him with the rope. So the man set to work. As instructed, and after many hours, he had constructed a small hillock of snow and snuffed out the flames. But just as he finished, the sorcerer returned and confronted him. Stupid man! Do you realize what you have done? Said the sorcerer. I captured that Thori to ensure he would no longer blight us with snow and ice. And just as he spoke, both men heard a laugh coming from within the pile of snow, and then above them they saw the blue icy eyes of Thori, and they felt his cold words upon them. Thori laughed at them and looked down, and at that moment Thori vowed from that day on he would never come when people would expect. He would only come of his own accord, so that he would never be trapped again. Then he flew around and around, chanting their names until they were both frozen. And he flew off to spread his cold mischief, where and when he could and whenever he wants. And that is what they call the Winterkrieg.